What is up, YouTube? It is Drex and I am back with another video. In today's video we're going to talk about the most saddest moments in video games ever. I chose to do 11 picks instead of 10 to raise the bar a little higher. I could have done a little more if I wanted to, but I might do a part 2 to this video in the near future. But as of now, let's just start with 11 and I hope you guys enjoy. The number one thing that all video games have in common is that they all have their very own unique story, whether you're playing older games or newer games or quote-unquote AAA titles. The developers will always incorporate a story in their games no matter the genre. Stories will always focus on the protagonist winning, though that there are some moments that could bring tears in our eyes, or there's moments that are just too sad. Here is my top 11 picks. Starting off with number 11, I chose the ending to Final Fantasy X. Now, when I first played through this as a kid, I kind of cut through the cutscenes and I really didn't care to listen to the dialogue. But actually going back and playing it again and beating it, I understand it a lot more. And it actually left me a lot more sad because I remember after the third battle with Seymour, I remember the Faith tell Tidus the truth that he, along with Jet and Xanarkin, were all a dream the whole time. And of course, when it gets to that cutscene where him and Luna are embracing each other before they die, along with her telling him that she loves him, it left me even more tears as an adult. So that's why I have this one on the list. If you haven't played Final Fantasy X, please check it out now. The game has been remastered several times. If you want a good story in this game, go ahead and check it out. I really wasn't a big fan of Final Fantasy X as a kid, but like I'm older now, I like it a lot more. I think it was just the dub that threw me off. The first 3 Gears of War games will always be masterpieces in my eyes because you grow with those characters throughout all 3 of those games. And there's one character in particular you grow with is Dom. And by the time you get to part 2 of the game and he finds his wife in a vegetative state and that she's like suffering very badly, he has to end her suffering. And you can see that not only does she die, but he dies along with her because she's all that he had left. Because both their families were already dead during the Depression along with their children. And by the time it gets to part 3, and yes, I'm going to get off into part 3, you can see that he goes off on a full vengeance against the Locusts. Now, I'm not a big fan of the very first Last of Us game like I am part 2, but I will say in the prologue when you play as both Joel and Sarah, you don't expect his daughter to die because of how close-knit they are, and you would think that the parent would sacrifice himself for the child. However, when the guard shoots both of them and Sarah gets mortally wounded, it's the most heartbreaking thing ever in the game, and it makes you angry at first. And I tell you one thing about the Last of Us games is that they don't hold back when it gets to the prologues or the very first chapter. They throw the sad moments in right away. And of course, you knew I was going to have Aerith's death from Final Fantasy VII on this list. How could I not have it on there? It was actually one of the very first deaths I witnessed in video game history. Or I'd probably say one of my favorite Final Fantasy franchises ever. But yes, seeing Sephiroth impale Aerith can hurt my soul. And it doesn't make it any better. Even to this day, I'm almost 30, playing through this part and fighting the second Genova boss in that boss area while Aerith's theme music is playing heavily. Going back to Dom in Gears of War 3. Now, I know a lot of people say, well, I expected this to happen. Well, I didn't expect it to happen. But, you know, going back and playing it now, it kind of makes sense because Dom is full-on extra vengeful against the Locusts, and you see that he's, like, willing to just die at any moment now that his wife is dead because, like I said, that was the last person that meant a lot to him at this point. But Dom's sacrifice wasn't all that bad because he did it to protect his friends and his colleagues in the game. And that's all that really mattered by the end of the day. So he died like a true soldier and a hero should. Sadly, I hate to phrase it that way. But Dom's death in Gears of War 3 is definitely a big tearjerker for me. And he will always go down as one of my favorite Gears of War characters ever. John Marston's death at the end of Red Dead Redemption 1 wasn't much of a shocker to me. However, it still was a very sad moment in video games for me. And the reason why I kind of figured that this was going to happen because if you watched a lot of Western movies or watched a lot of shows and read books, then you kind of know once you're an outlaw into the public eye, you're always going to be an outlaw no matter how much you try and redeem yourself. And in this game, you see that John Marston is trying to redeem himself and leave that life past him and go on with his family. but the Federal Bureau of Investigation, or FBI, drags him in and have them do his dirty work, and at the end of the game he dies for it, but also protects his family by the end of the day. So this is going to be on my list as one of my top 11 saddest moments in video game history. Before we had Hellblade, we had Heavenly Sword. And man, I know this is probably not very sad in a lot of people's eyes because it's clearly stated in the game. Whoever holds the Heavenly Sword must give their life. We would think that Noriko would get an exemption, but she doesn't. As realistic as the game sticks to the story, I think it was a very sad moment for me because you really grow onto both Noriko and Kai's character, and the good thing about it, Kai ends up surviving, so I guess it isn't that bad, but this will always be a sad moment in video game history for me when seeing this character die. So, you know, hopefully, you know, we get some more stories in the future with Heavenly Sword now that Microsoft owns Ninja Theory. Now, I always refer to this ending as a sad ending in Heavy Rain, so if anyone in the comments knows what this ending is called, please let me know so I can refer to that moving forward. However, there's not much to really say here. I'm pretty sure a lot of people have gotten this ending, and this is a very rough ending. I'll say that for the most time being, because you see that Madison is over here trying to console Ethan at his son Sean's grave, and you can see that she's really just trying to build a new life and build words of encouragement, but you can see Ethan in his mind is just dead, and he just offs himself as soon as she turns his head, and it just gets pretty rough. I like a lot of David Cage games because they're very theatrical based, I say, for the most part. I think one of my all-time favorites that he have come out with is Indigo Prophecy, but I love Heavy Rain as well. So, you know, I also love Detroit, so give this one a go if you haven't. If you can get through if you can get past this ending and try and get the good ending, then yeah, let me know in the comments below. Now for my third pick, I chose Yumi from Yakuza because even though she's a supporting character, I felt very close to her character in this game because not only was she the girlfriend of Kiryu, but she ended up going through a very traumatic experience where she lost all her memories with him and everything that happened prior to the events in the game. And it came to a point where she ended up having a daughter, Haruka, that is a recurring character throughout the Yakuza series, well, through Kiryu's story. But anyway, I think it makes me very sad the most because at the ending of the game, when she finally regains all her memories of Kiryu and her daughter, you know, along with their daughter, if she sacrifices herself for Haruka, it still makes you sad because all Kiryu wanted to do was find her and rekindle their relationship, but unfortunately it couldn't happen that way. And when eventually, I guess in the happy way, for my second pick, I chose Zack from Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core. Now, we all know this serves as a prequel and it's just a portable game, but it's still important to the story, no matter what anyone says. And it actually serves as Zack's story prior to all the events that occurred in Final Fantasy VII. And, you know, we can fairly, you know, say that Zack ran so Cloud could walk. But anyway, getting into it, a lot of us know if you played through Final Fantasy VII that Zack dies eventually, but the death they show in the flashback isn't really as emotional as it is when you finally play through the very ending of the game and you have to play through the battle of Zack fighting the Shinra before getting gunned down very brutally. I don't know how many times I can express how sad this ending is, because I remember driving to Arizona with my mother and I was in the backseat of the car playing through this, and man, the music, it doesn't make it any better at all. The Price of Freedom, God, that soundtrack was so deep for just a portable game. And I'm actually excited that this game is being remastered on the newer consoles because I can't wait to play through it again and almost cry like a bitch. Coming in at number 1, now I'm pretty sure this isn't a shocker to most of you guys, but why the hell not? I have the boss from Metal Gear Solid 3. What can I say about this battle that hasn't been said? It gets sad each and every time. I jerk a tear, and then hearing the Snake Eater music instrumental in the background makes it no better. You are basically facing off against your mentor, who was betrayed by her own country, and you were the pawn the whole damn time. And I think the challenging part of this game is not the difficulty, is you challenging your emotions through this because you know she's innocent, but the only way you can progress through this game is if you defeat her. And that's the beauty of Hideo Kojima games, I feel, in a lot of ways, because he challenges the emotions you have towards these characters in games. And there's a lot of sad moments in Metal Gear Solid that I cannot express that are very rough, especially in Metal Gear Solid 4, but I think Metal Gear Solid 3 takes the cake for me, because this one actually made me cry. So, yep, grown man shit, I admitted it. Video games are a work of art, and art often imitates life. And settings may be unrealistic, and fictional characters can bring up a wealth of emotion. Sad moments in video games can have the same effect on people the same way you see in movies with sad scenes, music, or books. But, you know, that's the beauty of it all. Well, that's it for my top 11 saddest moments in video game history. Tell me what your top 10 favorite or 11 are in the comments below. Let's have a discussion about it. Other than that, this is Drex, and I am out.